What's up, YouTube gun lovers? So I've been seeing this question on the AR-15 forum recently, AR-15.com, and people at work are asking me about it. They're wondering, what should I look for? What's the AR-15 I should buy if I've never owned one? First time AR-15 owner. And I think that's a really valid question. And I think there's a couple considerations that you should definitely make that I wish I would have thought about before I went down that road. Right? So before we get into it, Second Amendment is the thing right now we need to start thinking about. So please do all these gun channels a favor that you're watching videos on and subscribe and throw thumbs up, because YouTube's got to know that we care about gun channels and our Second Amendment rights. Otherwise, we become the minority, and the majority sounds like everybody who doesn't want AR-15s. So subscribe, thumbs up, awesome. Next, AR-15s. So I think the first question you ask when you're thinking about what's my first AR-15 if I've never owned one before is obviously budget. You should think about exactly how much you're willing to get into, because it really is going to guide where this goes, right? So I think there's a minimum standard everybody needs to be at. I think there's a minimum gun everyone should at least get into, which is like your low-end Ruger 5.56 builds, the ones that they've been offering recently, and the M&P 15 Sports. Those are your really good low-end. They should come from a reputable manufacturer, right? That way you know all the stuff's going to be in tolerance and in spec, and if it's not, they're gonna make it right for you, right? I think that's kind of your bottom level standard. But I think you really should do some self-examination in this one and think about your other hobbies. And are you the type of person that just gets some golf clubs, throws them in the bag, throws in your garage, and when you go play golf, you take them out and you don't really think twice about them? Or are you a tinkerer? Do you have to have the right club angle, the right distance and the angles between your pitching wedge and your 9-iron, so your sand wedge is the same amount of difference in degrees, head offset, right? Do things like that matter to you? Do you really nerd out on other hobbies? Like if you're building computers, do you care about the latest and greatest, CPU from Intel, right? Or whatever. Do you care about the newest GTX 1060 or whatever, right? So if you're that person, if you're the one that is really tinkers and goes really deep into details, I don't think you should look at those lower end Ruger and Smith & Wesson M&P as your first gun, because you'll just end up throwing a bunch of money at it to try to get it to be something like this. Something that's going to have an adaptable system that you can attach stuff to, because let's face it, you buy a gun like this for sport and for fun, but you also buy it probably in thinking that you might use it for defense. Or eventually you'll get to that point, perhaps, right? If you're a tinkerer, you're probably thinking along those lines already, right? How do I make it a fighting gun? Well, fighting gun, you need a white light source, and you need some sights, right? And an optic is nice, not absolutely necessary. For me, it's absolutely necessary. Some people might not agree. I think everybody should have a red dot on a fighting gun. It's because in the dark and stuff, it's hard to see your night sights, or your sights and whatever. I think on a fighting gun, red dot, some sort of red dot, right? And a light. And maybe you want a grip, or I don't know how, maybe you're going to try that, right? Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. Maybe you don't want a light hanging off the side of your gun. There's a whole bunch of considerations you should start thinking about before you buy the gun, because once you get it, it could end up being a money pit for you to try to make it what you want, or you might end up settling with substandard parts because they don't attach the way you want them to. It's best to think along those lines before you even get into a gun. So if I was going to advise a gun like that to a first-time gun buyer who has up to about $1,100 budget, I would put them into potentially this LWRC ICDI. I think there's not a lot of competition for this gun right now that offers the same level of quality and features that this gun offers at its price point. So you can get this gun in black. I've seen them go for under $1,000. I've seen them go for in the 999s or 995s, whatever. And the gun comes with a very decent trigger. It comes with Magpul furniture. It comes with full Abbey controls. Like you don't see a bolt catch release on the right side of a gun very often. Very rarely you actually see this. And that's a full Abbey feature on this gun. You don't just release the bolt here. You can actually go to bolt lock on the right side of the gun. That's pretty awesome. Plus you got a full Abbey features with the magazine release. Your charging handle, which these LWRC Abbey charging handles are absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. So full Abbey gun, you can get it for under $1,000 and you'll be able to adapt to your heart's content. You'll be able to put anything you want on this gun, right? And the guns, they're accurate, they're super reliable, they're proven, they're fantastic, right? So the only thing it doesn't come with is backup iron sights, which you might get with a couple other guns, but a lot of them don't come with them, so I didn't bother me too much, right, for the price point that these come in at. So I think you'd be really tough to beat this gun with all the features at this price point, with anything. I don't think there's anything in the market right now that competes with this, legitimately at its price point, right? There's BCM, there's Daniel Defense, great guns, right? Not saying they're not, but they're not Abbey like this gun, right? They're not like that. So depends what you're looking for, but this price point, like I said, tough to beat. So I think those are the questions you really need to ask yourself. Am I a tinkerer? So what's my budget, right? Am I a tinkerer? Am I going to want to mess with this thing and make it a fighting gun once I get it? Because if you get a standard handguard, you're just going to end up buying a quad rail, and then if you have just a standard like plastic 2-piece carbine handguard and you put a 2-piece quad rail on there, it's not going to be as solid as you want. It won't be free floated. You'll have a big front sight post, which is okay if that's what you're into, right? But just know that before you get into it, right? Because if you get a gun like this without a big front sight post, you get the option of your backup iron sights, right? You can have them up or down. If you want them up all the time, you leave them up all the time. Some people do. So it's just, I would really ask myself before you got it, because I made that mistake, right? I bought a basic B of an AR-15, and I just ended up trying to throw money at it and make it into something it's not. And knowing what I know now, I would have just bought something like this right from the get-go. This was like 20 years ago too, so whatever, but I wish I would have had that kind of knowledge dropped on me back then. I would have did things differently. I wouldn't have. I wasted money in guns because of stuff like that, you know. So yeah, I challenge anybody to beat what you get in this gun for the price. I don't know. It'd be tough to do, right? There's good Colts out there, the 6920 and stuff like that, but not Abbey, right? Those are features that people go out and buy. They go out and buy Abbey safeties to put on their guns. Then they go out and buy whatever, you know, Abbey. They got these little Abbey magazine release things that you can set over here, that kind of lever, and like pull the. It's just not like being built onto the gun. They're nice features. Yep, relatively light guns for being a heavy barreled AR-15. They flued out the barrels on these. If you haven't seen them before, which adds to the surface area for cooling. If you're a science guy, girl, the more surface area you got, the faster the barrel cools. These barrels get hot, so that's a plus. Plus, with them, with that material cut out of them like that, it makes them, I think, as rigid or more rigid than it would have been if they were solid. It doesn't lose any rigidity because of the way they do the spiral, whatever they say. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, so they say so. Yep. So this is the one I recommend right here to anyone, honestly, if your budget allows it. If not, I think you roll with some of like the M&P Sports or whatever the Rugers. They're all solid, reputable manufacturers. Maybe someone gets a lemon, maybe they don't, but those companies will typically take care of you. And then if that's what you want to do without like, you just want to get an AR-15 to go out and take it outside, shoot it once in a while, cool, maybe you'd be all right like that. But if you think you want to attach lights and a visible laser and an optic or whatever, I would just get something that's built for modularity right from the get-go. Would be my advice. Might save you some money. Because I've cheaped on guns before, and then I end up getting what I want anyway, and then I take a loss on selling the lower end gun that I bought. So learn from my mistakes. Yep. I guess that's it. If you got any questions, feel free to comment below. Or think I'm just flat out wrong, you can tell me that too. Other than that, if you didn't subscribe yet and you like what you saw, please do. Throw that thumbs up, because Second Amendment needs it right now. Gun community, YouTube needs to know we exist and we care about these videos. So, yep, awesome. Thanks. Have a nice day.